Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 244 of At Odds with Wrestling. Joe and Adam here. Adam, hello. How are you?
Fine.
Is this how we're starting the show off? Hang on. Wait.
No. You don't have to cue anything up. I'm not mad.
Do we need a new sad boy jingle or something?
I don't know. I guess it's just. One of them, Joe, I could have lived with one of them, but two of them get pregnant in like 48 hours.
Yeah,
like, how?
Listen, well, when a man loves a woman very much, I'm sorry, this is how you had to find out, Adam. So what they do is the man takes his. You can stop me at any time.
Stop. I don't. This is the first time I don't want to imagine either one of them doing that. Oh. Why? Like, no, it hurts, Joe. It does. Because, like, you know, there's those delusional people out there that think they have a chance with celebrities. Like, I pride myself in never being one of them because I actually had a shot. And it's, I don't even know. I don't even know what to do anymore, Joe. Just years and years and years of doing this bit. I mean, having this loving, committed relationship with the greatest professional wrestler in the history of the WWE, Alexa Bliss, and the face of women's wrestling.
The face?
The face. And now, you know how difficult it is to be like the new dad that swings in, like, I gotta buy the kids toys. Like, I don't want to do any of that. This is muddying all the waters.
You could just give them some of the toys that you already have.
I guess if I have doubles. It's just not how I planned on starting my week, Joe.
Well, I'll say this. Has obviously one would assume that this has caused a major shakeup in the Adam Van top 10.
Well, that's the thing. I have to decide, like, previously, I had excluded people when they ceased to be active, but now this is taking some heavy hitters off the top of the list, so I might have to amend the rules,
right?
And like allow people who are on hiatus to be on there, which also means I could bring Billy Kay back in, so it kind of works for everybody. But I don't know if I want to reward bad behavior like this.
It was so funny too, because I guess when, and obviously if you're aware, you're a new listener, whatever, both Alexa Bliss and Tay Conte announced that they are with child this week. And when the Alexa Bliss announcement came out, my timeline was just flooded with people checking on you to see if you were okay.
Because it's like again, what are the odds that both of those gut punches would happen like in consecutive days? Yeah. We were at DJ's compound when the Tay news hit, and like I barely was able to make it home then. I had to like and then like it wasn't the next day, but it was the day after. I don't know. It all blurs together. I'm in a haze. And then the Alexa Bliss news hits. Like, kick a man when he's down. God.
Well, luckily, I don't have those problems because, you know what I mean? I'm not a member of the Council of Greece, you know? Yeah. I don't have, I've never had that sort of obsessiveness, as a bit or not, you know, with women in wrestling, you know? Like, I guess Francine would be the closest, but I was 18, so, you know, it was a long time ago.
Yeah. I just thank you to everybody who reached out in support and checked on me in these troubling times. And I'm just going to have to get through it day by day, you know, one day at a time.
All right. I'm going to be on Between the Sheets this week, if that'll help you feel any better.
the one of those kids will be born by the time I'm done listening to that episode.
Well, obviously it was a more recent topic. Chris and Bix, they have a 10-year window. They'll only do something back as far as 10 years, and one of their patrons paid for them to cover this week specifically. And it's something that we've actually covered on the podcast here quite a bit, you know, both in the main show a couple months back when we were doing the Chikara shows leading up to this, but also on the Patreon show with the interviews with Ian, and Derek Sabato in regards to, the shutdown angle of Chikara. And I was only on for that segment just to talk about that. I think that's about 2.5 hours.
Jesus. I'm glad you held back a little, Joe.
Right. And, well, so there was a lot of just clarification because there was like bits and pieces of stuff. And I'll say Bix is a master with the Wayback Machine to find things out,
Yeah.
So it was just like me like having like 65-70% fuzzy details in regards to some sort of things, and Bix able to pull up what the website looked like at the time to be like, oh, well, you were wrong about this, and this was close, and do you feel with this? And I'm like, yeah, okay, it's been 10 years, that fills in those gaps, but, if you enjoy my appearances on there and you can't get enough of me, Monday morning it'll be out there live. And did I mention it on... I mentioned it on Longbox Heroes, but I pretend that there's no crossover audience with those shows, right?
Yeah.
So I'll tell this story here as well. So we're doing the show, and Bix has his screen share up, and he'll, if you've ever listened to Between the Sheets, they'll watch like a moment or whatever it is, and he pulls up the finish of the main event of the Never Compromise show, and then as Chris is reading like the account in the Observer of what happened, he gets to the point about, as it's reported in the Observer, that one of the fans did a flying body press at the door and broke the window around the door.
Okay.
Bix pulls up a very famous picture of that moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Chris dies. He goes, oh my God, that's the show image. That's fantastic, right? So I say to Bix, I go, hang on, let me send you the better quality version of that picture. Because, of course, I have it on my phone and on my computer and everything else like that. So as soon as, there was a lull in the conversation, I messaged that person who's a listener of Between the Sheets. And I said, hey, you're the show image for Between the Sheets this week.
Nice, and I do have that picture as well. I believe you also helped me upgrade the Google version.
Yeah.
I had the lower res at one point, but no, congratulations, big time move from that person.
That's right. No spoilers as to who that is, but if you know the picture, then you know what we're talking about.
Exactly, and you'll find out in a couple of days when you listen to the Between the Sheets.
Yeah, exactly. So enough of other shows and Adam's Tale of Woe or Woe of Tale. Let's get into our show, huh?
Yeah, woe of lack of tail.
And now, At Odds with Wrestling presents This Day in Wrestling History.
All right, let's turn my volume down a little bit here.
All right, you do that.
Coming a little hot in my own headphones.
Headphones?
Yeah, come on. I'm a goddamn professional. So on this day, wrestling history in 1996, ECW held the event entitled Fight the Power.
Okay.
This did not get a commercial release. This was mostly chopped up for TV. If you look at the results there, they do a gimmick which was similar to what they had done just about 7 or 8 months prior with Too Cold Scorpio. What they would do later this year with Too Cold Scorpio. My apologies. I forget that they did it here first with Shane Douglas, where Shane Douglas had just won the TV title at the previous show from Too Cold Scorpio. He comes out and he challenges a bunch of people. He beats them all in relatively quick succession. And then it gets to Pitbull 2, who had just lost a harrowing battle with Raven earlier in the night for the world title. And then Pitbull 2 beats Shane Douglas for the TV title. And this is the beginning of a program between these two that would continue to Barely Legal a year later.
Okay. No, I remember. One of the few things from ECW that I vaguely remember.
Okay. This is also the continuing rivalry between Tom Dreamer and Brian Lee, where Brian Lee is choke slamming Tommy Dreamer from higher points in the arena to culminate in the October high incident scaffold match, where the ring is full of tables and they are wrestling on the rickiest, shittiest scaffold you'll ever see in your entire life.
And that was used in the opening credits to ECW for a long time, right?
Right.
Okay.
But this one particularly was, if you've ever been in the ECW arena for any time, I guess I don't even know how you even get in there these days. Let's say if you've been in the ECW arena anytime prior to like 2014,
Okay.
the main doors that you would come in through, there was like a little like seating area above there. And they had stacked up 3 tables in front of the main entranceway. Brian Lee chokeslams Tom Dreamer off that through the 3 tables. And it's one of those things where, like, first table breaks, second table breaks, third table explodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
It does not break in half. It just blows up into a million pieces. I was there. It was myself, my friend Brian, and my brother Tony. And I very quickly said to him, He goes, I want a piece of that table. I go, here are the keys. Go grab it and run. Because he was a little kid. At the time, he would have been like 15, or like 13 or 14, maybe. Okay. So I just gave him the keys to my car, and he up until he passed several years ago, he had that half a table in his apartment.
Now, let me ask you this. You mentioned, like, get the table and run.
Yeah.
Would they have, like... Were they selling them at gimmick tables, like the pieces? Where, like,
no, but
like more of a modern thing.
I think if me as a teenage, like as a 20-something, grabbed the table, they would have probably stopped me because it was part of something that. Did you hear the story a couple weeks ago on We Need Wrestling, where DJ picked up Juice Robinson's tattered shirt and one of the security people made him give it back?
Yeah, no, I heard that. Yeah, but that's why I'm thinking, like, because nowadays we're in the era where people are like selling everything, whether it be the promotion or the wrestlers selling on eBay or whatnot or whatever. It just seems like it would be an afterthought that 20 something years ago, close to 30 years ago, that like somebody would think that who gives a shit? We're just going to throw it out anyways. You know,
I'm sure there would probably be someone like, oh, that might be worth something. You know, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't taking any chances.
Sure.
Also on this show is Taz versus Jason Helton. I don't know who that is, but it was a match to build up the upcoming shoot fight that Taz was going to have with the polar bear Paul Varlins.
Paul Varlins is somebody that I've never heard of before ECW. I've never heard of him after ECW. But like that one commercial that just kept on building and building that Taz versus Varlins match made it seem like he was like Mike Tyson and Fedor Emelianenko, like all rolled into one.
That is true. Paul did a very good job of building these people up to make them seem like a big deal, you know?
Yeah.
Now, there's one other thing that happened on this show, and I wonder if it's online. Because if it is, now I'm going to roll the dice here on the whatchamacallit, the audio quality of this, okay?
All right, let's get nuts.
So just at the previous show, if you remember, it was revealed that the Beulah was not pregnant and that Beulah was cheating on Tom Dreamer with Kimona Wanalea, who was with Raven. They both went with Tom Dreamer because he's hardcore. He'll take them both. Mm-hmm. So even though he's the world champion, Raven is a little bit down in the dumps.
Okay. Let's hear it.
I think Stevie's wearing a Menudo t-shirt.
You set me spine.
That was HIV riddled crack addicted whore is what he's put out there.
All right.
And tonight, in front of everybody here at the ECW Arena, at Fight the Power, Dancing Stevie Richards has a big surprise for you, Raven. You're not going to believe this, Foster. You're not going to believe this. Neither are you, Joe, now. I have, here in the ECW Arena, back in that locker room, waiting to come out, waiting at your beck and call to do anything and everything you want her to do. You great in Hollywood, California, I give you Divine Brown.
Yeah, Divine Brown just recently, like literally recently, after the Grand Slam. Now, also bear in mind, she has no idea how to get in the ring. She's wearing about 6-inch heels, and she looks like she just blows out her ankle.
Raven, here's Divine Brown. She's here for you. She wants you. She'll do anything, I mean anything that you want her to do.
Baby. I was
Stevie has picked her up and she's straddling Steve.
Richard! She hasn't been with enough people yet. I don't want her.
Oh, what a moment in ECW history.
All right. This is going to come as very little surprise to anybody. I've never seen that before.
It was on TV.
If I saw that, I have no memory of it. Like that.
Mhm.
I kind of remember Raven saying the whole "she hasn't been with enough men yet" or enough people yet. But like, I don't remember her, and I don't remember her unable to get in the ring or able to walk around in the high heels. That's all. I don't know why. I feel like that would have jumped out at me.
You would think a very memorable moment. That's why I saved it for last from that event, right?
Yeah. All right.
So we flash forward 1998. We have our Raw versus Nitro head to head. Go listen to the Patreon from last week. Patreon.com/@oddswrestling, which I did plug on Between the Sheets.
Oh, nice.
I might have said at odds with wrestling, and Bix corrected me.
Ever doing a journalism there? That guy.
Right. So we reviewed Over the Edge, which was the pay-per-view just the night before. Obviously, the Raw does recap what had happened at the pay-per-view the night before, with a little bit of a different twist on the recap.
Last night's shallow victory by Stone Cold Steve Austin was overshadowed by concern for the condition of WWF owner Vince McMahon. Under the specter of The Undertaker, who stood guard at ringside, Steve Austin and Dude Love fought a brutal but yet a fair match. However, in one sheer act of incompetence, Dude Love nearly decapitated Vince McMahon. And as the valiant McMahon lay motionless, Austin covered Dude Love. And in one of the most selfish, heartless, and cruel acts in history, took McMahon's very own lifeless hand and counted himself to victory. Steve Austin won the match, but will forever be stained with the label of being the most undeserving and cold-hearted WWF champion of all. Last night.
I love that. That was awesome.
Well, again, that wasn't all we got out of Vince on this episode of Raw. There was a little bit more of a tribute to him as well.
As the leader in sports entertainment, the World Wrestling Federation is proud to be at the forefront of charitable and humanitarian causes worldwide. For more than 50 years, the McMahon family has carried on a time-honored tradition of sharing their portion of the American dream with those less fortunate. Led by Chairman Vince McMahon, the World Wrestling Federation now extends to more than 1,000 employees, each who continue the spirit of giving to charities like the Boys and Girls Clubs and the Special Olympics. As the WWF continues to grow into the next millennium, so too will its tradition of compassion and giving.
I love that they use Vince's charitable good deeds to build him up as more of a heel.
Yeah, like a great on-screen character and a philanthropist. Like, whatever happened to this guy? He seems awesome.
I think those still shots of those chair shots that he took from Mick might be where that man went, right?
Oh, that's a shame.
But one pay-per-view down, another pay-per-view left to go. This Raw sees a bunch of King of the Ring qualifying matches. We get a number one contenders match on Raw of Kane versus The Undertaker, a match that they just did at WrestleMania less than 2 months ago. And now it's just like a throwaway 9-minute match on Raw to determine who's going to wrestle Stone Cold at the next pay-per-view.
All right. They do that nowadays constantly. It's Monday Night Raw right after a pay-per-view. Let's run the match back.
Yep, but that's like this is kind of like the beginning of that, you know? Like we are in full swing of the Attitude Era, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And this is also the debut of the Godwins as Southern Justice, Double J's heavies, as they're just, you know, they rehired Double J back from WCW, and they're just really trying to figure out a way to get him to connect. And it's going to take about another 2.5 months, but we're going to get there.
Yeah, and they switched them to their shoot names, right? For Southern Justice. It was like Mark Canterbury and
yes,
the other guy.
Dennis Knight and Mark Canterbury, yes.
All right. Hey, I got 50%.
But again, over on the competition over on WCW Nitro, it's another 3-hour Nitro. We get the continuation of the Chris Benoit Booker T Best of 7 series to see who the number one contender for the TV title would be, which are all really good matches. You know, whatever your opinion of Chris Benoit is, hopefully negative. There's a few out there.
I thought you were going to say whatever your opinion of Booker T happens to be.
Oh, come on now. Now I'm torn on what to play next because both are going to be very long talking points, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to let you pick. Are we doing this one or are we doing this one?
Do that one that's on the screen right now.
Okay. So I'm going to say this moment that we're about to play was the legitimate end of WCW.
All right.
It's a main event of Luger and Kevin Nash, Wolfpack, against Giant and Hollywood Hogan.
From the upper reaches of the MCI Center, here he comes.
Very slow.
Slowly descending, as he has so many times. Sting on hooks. A good look will tell you, yes, that is the real Sting.
Didn't go to his friend Luger at all. You notice that?
It is decision time here.
Let's see what he's got on.
He's got an NWO. He's got on the black and the white.
Oh.
My God, he's got on the black and the white.
And look at Hogan celebrate.
Look at this.
I'd never see this.
Sting hugging Hogan. No, he doesn't.
Oh, the betrayal.
Sting decked Hogan.
I love this.
Sting is going to slam the Giant.
Just like nothing.
Giant.
513 pounds of the Giant.
Hold on.
He's getting rid of that black and white right now.
Trying to, at least.
Sting takes off. He's got the red and the black. Sting.
He's Joey Nash. He's with the black and red. There's no doubt about that now.
Sting is on the Wolfpack side. Sting is a member of the Wolfpack.
Maybe the strongest organization going today.
Can you believe what we've seen? They're holding back Hogan and the Giant. Savage has come in. Conan, Kurt Hennig, and Sting is in the Wolfpack. Let me say it again. Sting is in the Wolfpack.
And Hogan is beside himself.
Now, why was that the demise? Because I remember that being awesome. All the coolest people were in the Wolfpack.
So this event is taking place at the MCI Center in Washington, D.C. Do you know the significance of that building, Adam?
Of course I don't.
That is where Starrcade happened just 6 months prior for the Hogan-Sting blow-off. You know, Sting, the defender of WCW for the previous year and a half. And now all of a sudden, Sting is even toying with the idea of joining either NWO. By this point, Sting joining the NWO Wolfpack has now made WCW, you know, the company in which all of this is taking place on, seem like the third biggest deal in the company. It's NWO Wolfpack are the baby faces, and all the coolest guys are in it. NWO Hollywood is Hogan, eventually Scott Hall, and then like a bunch of nobodies, but still, because it's Hogan, it's the number one thing on the show. And then WCW has Goldberg and DDP, and that's about it.
And Booker and Benoit and the Cruiserweights.
But they're not fighting for the top of the card. They're not the main event faction. The main event faction is the faction that has been trying to take over the company for the last 2 years, has now splintered into a babyface group and a still heel group. And now the biggest defender of WCW has joined the babyface faction of the group that he's been fighting against for the last 2 years.
Yeah, but that's like saying that WCW, I get the whole like NWO came in as their own product, as trying to represent themselves as their own brand, but saying that WCW is the third like brand on WCW's programming is like saying if you tune in to Dynamite, you know, Blackpool Combat Club is the number one promotion, the Elite's the number 2, and then everybody else is number 3.
Has there been a Blackpool Combat Club sold out pay-per-view yet?
Well, not yet.
Okay. Did Blackpool Combat Club or the Elite or House of Black or any of these things come into the company as an invading faction trying to take over the show and rebrand it as themselves? Not counting Collision, which we'll get to later.
Other than the Outcasts, no. But I get what you're saying, that it seems an odd choice for Sting, a staunch defender of WCW and anti-NWO. But by this point, the concept of the NWO had been so diluted that it really was just, here's a heel faction, here's a babyface faction. So I don't see it as this invading force anymore.
And that's the other problem as well, that it was no longer the invading force. Once Hogan was defeated at Starrcade, the NWO should have ceased to exist. And I get that NWO was a popular brand, and now you could sell twice as many shirts because now one is black and white and one is black and red. And that's the main focus for it. But by putting Sting in either one of those factions, just completely, I think, destroyed, not just for me, but a lot of people that had been following the product and following the company. It made no sense for Sting to join any iteration of the NWO.
Maybe it was because I wasn't as big of a Sting fan, as the rest of you guys. But whenever something that I liked got better, and I liked the original NWO, so when it split off and all the cool people were in the Wolfpack, I obviously liked the Wolfpack, and them getting a big name like Sting, even I recognize that, that's a big win for this stable. So it's just like it's when one of your favorite sports teams makes a big free agent signing and you're pumped for it. That's kind of how I saw it. So maybe I wasn't looking at it from the grand scheme of things and saying, okay, this does hurt the non-NWO talent, because their biggest guy just affected. But, I was just looking at it in the moment. So I didn't see it as this thing that was ruining the company.
I wish I knew more about real sports to put in some sort of analogy to make it make sense in the way that it makes sense in my head.
Mm.
Would you be okay with Tom Brady being on the Steelers?
Tom Brady, like in 2023? No.
Tom Brady in his prime.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Well, and again, I think that's the line between the type of fan that you are and I am. And
just win, baby. See you later, Ben.
I guess.
Hold this clipboard for the golden boy. I mean, to be honest with you, obviously, peak, like prime Tom Brady doesn't hold a candle to 2023 Kenny Pickett, but that's another story altogether. Kenny, by God, Pickett, sorry.
I have known to blame it myself for bringing up real sports.
At least we're not talking baseball.
Right. But there was a silver lining to all of this. As much as the downturn of WCW is happening right before our very eyes, there was one thing that was still holding my attention on WCW. Again, of course, we talked about it a couple weeks ago when we watched the clip from Spring Stampede, Cruiserweight Battle Royal. Cyclope unmasks as Dean Malenko defeats Jericho, his rival for the Cruiserweight title. Jericho has been telling anyone that'll listen that he's a conspiracy victim, even holding up signs that say so. And because they're in Washington, D.C., Jericho takes it one step further.
J.J. Dillon, you wanted it, you got it. You dared to challenge me. You said I needed evidence. I'm going to give you evidence. I came all the way to Washington, D.C. to get the jurisprudence that you need to give me my bell back. And J.J. Dillon, someone here will definitely listen to what I have to say.
Look at the suit he's wearing.
Looks great. Just looks great.
This conspiracy is bigger than I thought. No one will listen to me here either. They must be together with Dillon. They gotta be. This is ridiculous. Excuse me, fellas. Who can I talk to go over J.J. Dillon's head?
I don't know, but you're going to have to leave.
You're telling me I gotta leave?
You have to leave now.
Okay. Easy, guys. All right. You're in on the conspiracy too, aren't you?
His wife would have had no problem getting past Capitol Security.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere.
He was doing the scouting 25 years in advance.
Justice Clarence Thomas. Talk to his law clerk, and I know she'll give him the message. And when he has a chance, he'll definitely have a meeting with me. I just know he will. Battle Royal. And all the guys were listed in the Battle Royal. Dean Malenko was not listed in the Battle Royal. He was under a mask.
Homeless person.
He took the mask off. Surprised me. He beat me for the belt.
Oh, there's the sign. God, I want to buy that original sign.
Okay, I've had enough of this. I've had enough of the lackeys. I've had enough of the yes men. The time has come for me to go straight to the top. I'm going to go inside because I heard he's a Jerichoholic, so he should let me in. Excuse me, sir. I'm America's role model. I need to see the chief. I got to get inside and go over J.J. Dillon's head.
I'm sorry, there's no clearance. You're going to have to leave right now.
But I'm Chris Jericho.
I don't care. You're going to have to leave right now.
Thank you, sir.
98. Was this still Clinton or was this Bush?
Clinton.
All right.
Clinton won in 96.
Ah. There's lots of shots of him walking around.
Library of Congress.
Somewhere. Where's the section on WCW title belts?
He's just the absolute best. Always has been, always will be.
Always will be, huh?
Yep. Never a blemish on that man's record. Take me back, Chris.
Oh my goodness. What fun stuff this was. And I'm hoping like we've got to be a couple weeks away from them starting to like actively sell the Jerichoholic, the Monday Night Jericho shirts on TV, right?
Like the official ones, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the first conspiracy victim sign appearance, right? This is the rookie appearance, as far as you know?
No, so he had done it on Thunder. Just the,
okay.
Whatever the timeline would be, it doesn't line up with our week here,
Gotcha. There's a famous picture of me circling the internet of me holding a very similar sign.
A 12-year-old Adam Van.
I was 18.
Yeah, I'm sure you were.
It was 98.
Uh-huh.
I tell people I was born in 90, but I was born in 80.
Goodness. You look like a young child there, but anyway. But yeah, so that was that, and the Raven stuff was really the only stuff that I cared about in WCW, and the Raven stuff is just the Raven stuff is so self-contained, it does not cross over with anything else in WCW. So you talk about this, you mentioned the cruiserweights, the Benoit and Booker and Finlay stuff is its own bubble, doesn't cross over with anything else. The Jericho stuff is the cruiserweight stuff, doesn't cross over with anything else. The Raven, Saturn, Mortis stuff, that's its own bubble, that doesn't cross over with everything else. The Goldberg stuff just is going on, and eventually we're about a month away from the Goldberg stuff finally breaking through to the main event. But that main event stuff is just NWO versus NWO, and it makes WCW look secondary in all of it,
Yeah, and I think for me, whenever somebody left ECW, especially, I didn't feel bad about the cruiserweights leaving, or, even Jericho, Rey Mysterio, whatever. But when, Raven or Saturn or Sandman or Whipwreck, whenever they'd go to WCW, I'd give them a week, and then I'd be like, this is not the ECW version of them, and I'd lose interest, because I just wouldn't have faith in their presentation. Raven's probably the best of the bunch because he got to be Raven for longer than the rest of them did, but you know what I'm saying? It wasn't obviously the same.
Everybody was just looking for a payday,
Yeah, I can't blame them. At least they got the checks probably cleared.
Exactly. But last but not least, before we wrap things up, if there is something to it, and it's not a in-ring segment, of course, we do have to play from This Day in Wrestling History in 2006 as the paparazzi production stuff grows ever closer.
Ooh.
Backstage here with Alex Shelley, and point blank, Alex, I gotta ask you. You show up here on the scene, you open up a video production company, you decide to follow Sting and his family around, then you hook up with James Mitchell and decide to stalk Christian Cage. Now you hooked your wagon to Kevin Nash. He wants to show up and help take care of the only thing you helped to create here in TNA, the X Division. What's going on?
Now you've hooked up your wagon to Kevin Nash? You know what, JB? What I do when I'm off the clock with my video camera is of no concern to you. And quite frankly, I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel a little disrespected.
You feel disrespected?
That's right. I feel disrespected.
For everything you've done, you feel disrespected.
Not only disrespected, complete propaganda. You can't make him a star, I can. Who you got tonight?
Jay Lethal.
You got your camera? Ready to go?
Actually, a couple weeks ago, I lost my tripod.
Oh, don't worry. I got your tripod. Right here.
Slater on tonight. Take it away, Christy.
No disrespect to your Arn Andersons, your Jake Roberts, your whatever. Why isn't he, and maybe he doesn't want to, but I think the world needs Kevin Nash as a mouthpiece on TV right now. Obviously, he's got things that, might preclude him from doing it or wanting to do it. But just out of a selfish need, I wish he did something on national TV, wrestling related.
I know he records his podcast on Wednesdays. I know he doesn't like to travel all that much unless it's for conventions. If they can somehow line up conventions on Saturdays, wherever, it could happen. It could happen. But in all honesty, Kevin has said recently, of course, it's been almost a year, I think, maybe 8 months since his son passed. Mm-hmm. And he just recently started doing conventions in the last 2 months. He just doesn't like being away from home right now.
Sure.
If there was a company I'm shocked that I know before Scott Hall passed away, Kevin Scott were at the Performance Center working with Omos. Obviously that was just like a one-off deal, whatever it was. But I'm shocked that with Kevin being in Florida and the Performance Center being there, that like he hasn't been hired on as a coach. Obviously, since like his two friends, more or less, his one friend runs the Performance Center and his other friend fake runs the company altogether. I would assume that it's just because he doesn't want to do it.
Yeah. No, I get it. Like I said, it's just a selfish thing. I feel like he obviously has a lot more to give on camera,
Yes.
And I want to see it. I want to make new paparazzi production level stuff to relive years from now.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. So again, busy this day in wrestling history, lots of clips, but it's a lot of fun clips. Let's get into what we watched or looked at or read about or whatever in the last week. Where would you like to begin, Mr. Adam?
I'm going to take this with kind of just broad strokes, but the only wrestling I watched all weekend, I didn't watch any of the Saudi Blood Money show. I didn't watch. People tell me that there was an NXT takeover. I don't believe them. But all of us got together and watched AEW Double or Nothing. And when I was watching the show, I was kind of like, oh man, I'm not enjoying this show. It wasn't one specific thing to point at, but a couple days later, I look back at it, and the Blackjack Battle Royal I thought was really enjoyable, and I am looking forward to Orange Cassidy versus Swerve. Two of the coolest motherfuckers on the planet. I liked the Spooky Boys, House of Black versus the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass, and the ladder match was fun. Anarchy in the Arena was kind of meh for me, and the Pillars match was also but at least Phil's coming back, so that's a cool thing, but might get into that later. But overall, I thought it was a solid pay-per-view, but I feel like maybe my expectations going into these, since they're so few and far between, are so high that like it kind of left me feeling flat.
Yeah, so I'm kind of in the same ballpark as you. I think this is, and again, I didn't really double check, but let's say this was like the 13th AEW pay-per-view, and this was probably the worst of them, but it was still an okay show, not great by any stretch of the imagination, but not bad, for a company that's only 4 years old.
Yeah, I mean, you still had pizza. It just probably wasn't the best pizza. But
right.
At the end of the day, you still ate pizza.
Right. I like the ladder match, of course, genetically predisposed to like any Orange Cassidy stuff, but luckily it was really good.
Yeah.
The ending, Big Bill got to shine. They set up OC versus Swerve for TV this upcoming week. We both, I kind of agree on the ladder match. It could have went either way, but I really felt as though Wardlow being in there with someone like Christian, outside of the goofy bit where Arn bit Luchasaurus's thumb.
I think I mentally blocked that out.
Yeah, I think this is the beginning of getting Wardlow back on the track that he got derailed from a year ago after beating Max in the stretcher match, and then just kind of them not doing anything with him after that. I liked Anarchy in the Arena. It wasn't as good as last year's, but obviously what really could beat last year's, like the visage of a bloodied Eddie Kingston coming down trying to set Chris Jericho on fire.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for the blood and guts figure of that.
Yeah, we got that Walmart exclusive Eddie with like a hat and a shirt. Like, why didn't we get with the bloody shirt and the gas can,
Yeah, that punk kid, that little piece of shit Wheeler Yuta gets one before Eddie Kingston. That's not fair.
Wheeler proved himself this week.
No, I get it, but
I like the blood and guts thing. I'm not going to be the person who's going to say that the spot with the Young Buck and the exploding sneakers super kick was dumb, because I can't say it was cool or dumb because I don't like the Young Bucks and I just default to everything that they do sucks.
Well, I can tell you, I will consider myself a neutral party on this because I used to be a huge fan of the Bucks, so I've mellowed on my fandom over time, but like I'm definitely more neutral than you are. I really like the Matt Jackson spot where once the boot was removed, he had to step on the tacks. I thought that was sick, but the exploding shoe thing, I thought that was cringe. You know, so that I'm an impartial body on that. So take that for what you will.
But overall, you know, I won't watch an NXT anymore. I kind of quit that cold turkey back in October, and I never looked back. And I think I'm better for it. I did watch some of the Saudi Blood Oil Money show.
You hypocrite.
I know.
You absolute hypocrite. I heard it was high art. That's the word that's making its rounds around Twitter.
Okay. And this is the, you know, we talked maybe like a week or two ago that like the Bloodline storyline is like this be all end all thing. It's the greatest story ever told in the world of professional wrestling. And these are people that haven't watched the first professional wrestling they watched was the CM Punk pipe bomb.
Sure.
Or barring that, Edge's world title run on SmackDown. So there's minimally 20 to 30 years of professional wrestling they just have no knowledge of whatsoever.
Well, I mean, the acceptable jumping on points for wrestling, everybody knows, is either 1990 or the Edge title run or the pipe bomb. Yeah.
Attitude Era could have counted, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
The match itself was good with Roman and Solo Sikoa against Sami and Kevin. It's still weird watching Saudi Blood Oil Money shows, but they actually had like progression in the angle where Jimmy was the one who kind of took the shot on Roman after they screwed up and accidentally super kicked Solo and ended up costing Roman the title victory of winning the tag titles on the 1000th day of his current title reign. So they're doing something. But this is not a knock on Jimmy or Jey Uso. If we are building to a match of one of the two of them or both of them as a team against Roman and Solo, it's a tag team I'll give you, but a singles program to headline a pay-per-view, I don't see it. You could say main event Jey Uso all you want, but it doesn't make it a real thing.
Yeah, and Roman has been built to this level that like, could it be anything other than a squash? Sure, it'll be presented as maybe a 60-40 match, but like, there's nobody on the planet that thinks that even with both of the Usos getting involved that they're going to beat Roman. And if they did somehow do it, you're like throwing your hands up in the air, being like, "What did we just do the last 2 years?"
Exactly.
But no, I only saw like the clips of the finish, you know, with the the botched super kick on Solo, and like you said, Jay turning on Roman. But you know, obviously, I laughed at all the pro WWE stuff and all the people laughing at the pro WWE fans and whatever. So I figured I got enough of it from Twitter.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I know there's people out there that are going to dunk on other people for their opinions, negative or positively. And if something funny comes across my timeline negatively or positively for WWE or AEW, I'm going to retweet it. But I'm never going to go into someone's mentions that comes upon my timeline and start bickering with them about how they're wrong and I'm right. Your opinion is your opinion. You know, there's a lot of people that have very strong opinions in regards to certain wrestlers, and it's not my, like, you know, outside of one or two, but, like, I have a lot of friends that like the Young Bucks, and I'm not going to get into it unless we have that comfortability that we could play back and forth with it. But, like, the fact that strangers do this to each other over wrestling, it still never feels right to me, you know?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I'll take the arguing over wrestling over other things on the internet.
Yeah, for sure.
But, yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't check out the pay-per-view. I did a quick fast forward through Raw just to kind of see where they were going with certain things. And, yeah, still not for me. But, you know, if that's what you're into, have fun. But I'm out of the Bloodline stuff. I think it's still well done, but it's lost me. You know, for what that's worth. Not that I was like, other than my subscription to the cock, I wasn't exactly contributing financially to the company anymore. Oh, and toys, I guess. Yeah, never mind. I'm contributing way more than anybody else.
I think we're in the same the same ballpark there. So,
yeah.
Anything else you want to?
I'll just say real quick, I have two quick things. I'll do one of them. Back to AEW, Don Callis and Takeshita. You know, they had the little bit at the end of the Anarchy in the Arena, but then they had the promo on Dynamite. You would swear that they were piping in booze, and maybe they were, but like that was the most super mega nuclear heat I've heard on live television in a long time. And kudos to the two of them. And just the fact that, yeah, it's very cliche, but just to have Takeshita yell at the crowd in Japanese just automatically brings out like the jingoistic like response from the crowd. Like I thought it was a very good heel promo.
Yeah, so the Don Callis heel promo, whatever your opinion is of Don Callis the person and things that he's alleged to have done, and you know whatever NDAs legitimately have been signed in regards to those sort of things, you cannot take away from what an on-screen performer he is. And as good as that promo was that he cut on Dynamite before the pay-per-view, AEW put up on their YouTube channel like this 11-minute sit-down interview with JR and Don Callis, which was the less screamy, more subdued version of that promo. Mm-hmm. And it was really good. And I'm like, he's making a lot of good points. He's the baby face in all this, right? And as great as that segment was for Heat on TV, the only two things I would have the only two notes I have on this is I would have had a plan to try to rush the ring to attack Don Callis.
Okay.
Add a little bit more pepper to this, you know.
How about giving them those plastic orange juice cups and telling everybody to crumple them and throw them into the ring?
Okay.
You know, like get the old Hogan NWO heat.
Yeah. And then the other thing was, I don't know if I'm just noticing it now that he's a baddie, but I noticed in a lot of the close-ups of Takeshita, he's got like a little mole on the bridge of his nose, and it makes him that much more adorable.
I noticed that, and I was like, I wasn't sure if that was there before, or if it was just like maybe he got busted on the bridge of his nose. I wasn't sure, but I noticed it. He's so darn good looking, and it's hard to root against him. But Callis will work on that.
Yeah, I think it was a Snowboy on Twitter, SNOWBOIII. He tweeted out a picture, and it just said Takeshita as a heel, and it was a baby in a devil's costume. He's too adorable to be evil.
Yeah. Do you have anything else?
I'll just say I thought Dynamite for the most part was really good. I don't know if you have anything else about Dynamite. We had 2 weeks in a row of really good Dynamites. The go home show kind of stunk. Pay-per-view was middle in the, was just okay for AEW. So they came back with a hot TV show. And then Rampage, which is taped, and I've avoided spoilers on, is like super stacked with a bunch of crazy matches. And of course, everyone's going to nitpick and say it's like, oh, of course it's a, Night of Champions, and none of the titles being defended are AEW titles. All right, everybody calm the fuck down. We're like, look, the matches are all really cool. You know what I mean? Like, everybody calm down.
Yeah, Rampage has gotten to the point where like even We Need Wrestling was debating like just stopping watching it. And you can almost sympathize with it. So AEW is like, here's a bunch of great matches. And then some people, obviously not Brett and DJ, I'm not implying that, but like some people are, as you said, are like, well, where's the TNT title? Where's the TBS title? Where's the, the not North American, the International Championship? So people are going to find something to complain about. If you have all these people, especially people that aren't often in AEW, put them on the show. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I liked Dynamite. You got the very natural presentation of Tony Khan letting everybody know that they still have tickets to sell in Chicago. So that was interesting. I would have preferred, and I get why they're saying that they did it, but I would have preferred there to be no mention of Pepsi Phil until, the show starts, just like at whenever he debuted, I forget what it was called, like Last Dance or...
Yeah.
So whenever I would have preferred if, as the show went on the air, they just hit Cult of Personality, but I get it. Do what you got to do to sell tickets.
Yeah, and I get where they're coming from with this, of course. And They're damned if they do, if they're damned if they don't, right?
Yeah, you can't please everybody, and I'm just booking it as me as a fan, what I'd like to see.
It was the worst kept secret in all of wrestling that this was the show that Punk was coming back at. Now that it's official, we'll see how tickets actually move, you know?
Yeah, they should have just did, instead of Tony Khan announcing CM Punk this week, last week when they announced it was going to be in Chicago, he should have just done an exaggerated wink into the camera. That would have been good enough.
Right.
The only other thing I'm going to say is I believe we both watched the first episode of the new season of Dark Side of the Ring.
Yes.
Which was the Chris Candido and Sonny episode, the Chris and Tammy. I'll just say that, like, whenever, with most of the subjects of these episodes, these Dark Side of the Rings, I know the broad strokes. You know, I know, like, of their career. I know kind of where they started. I know how they ended for the most part. But, like, this episode had some Smoky Mountain clips that I had never seen. It kind of glossed really quickly over WWE and ECW. And for me, I didn't know about the leg break and how him wanting to do a promo, the next day or the next week led potentially to him getting the blood clot and dying.
Really?
But, yeah, I just knew he died from a blood clot, but I didn't know it was because he went maybe against doctor's orders to attend a TNA taping. I didn't know that. But beyond that, I feel like over the course of the hour, not much was said or revealed that I didn't already know, and I don't know much about anything to start with, so it's rare that I'm not educated on something when I watch these. I'm not saying it wasn't a good episode. I thought it was very entertaining, but I didn't come out of it really learning anything.
Okay, I get what you're saying. But I think it's a story that is lost to time. Mm-hmm. Whereas because Chris passed away so long ago, it was like 2006, right? And so much of when you talk about either Chris Candido or Tammy Sytch, it's all about LOL Tammy.
Yeah.
It's a porno. It's another arrest. It's a drunk driving. It's a younger wrestler now. It's all these things, and I think that kind of chips away at the legacy that Chris Candido had built for himself at such a young age, and, before his very untimely passing, was kind of attempting to rebuild. I know I'd mentioned it on the show before, but it was late 2004 where I had accompanied some of the Ring of Honor students out to the Midwest when they got booked on some of the IWA Mid-South shows, and Chris was on those shows, and Chris would, and again, if you know IWA Mid-South and you know the reputation of IWA Mid-South, it's a scumbag indie, right? Mm-hmm. And Chris showed up to every show in a suit, full 3-piece suit, helped out with the ring, did everything that he could. And he was really working hard to try to get himself back into a position to kind of rehab whatever that image that people had of him was. And like I said, I think a lot of people just forget that because it's been so long, and a lot of people don't talk on a mainstream level about him as much. And, you could sit here and argue and say oh, well, MJF does, right? But you can't take anything that MJF says seriously because everything's in character and everything's a gimmick and everything's with a sly wink that we're all supposed to be in on. When Chris's book came out a couple years ago, MJF tweets out a picture of the book and says, "Book was fine. My book will be better," Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, I get you're supposed to be doing this in character, but I think if, we got to see a little bit of the real MJF shine through, and, it's oh, well, where's the tights? And he did the powerbomb off the top rope at the pay-per-view, and all these things that Candido has influenced him on. And obviously, he's damned if he does, if he damned if he doesn't. Some people will consider him a tribute act, but how many people watching AEW today really, know that much about Chris Candido? He was one of my favorite guys. Seeing that early Smoky Mountain stuff, seeing him come in, the magazines were all over him at the time. He was the youngest at the time, NWA champion, all the old timers. You're in 1990, 93, 94, your Harley Races and Lou Thez and all those type of people like looked at this kid, this 26, 27-year-old kid, and they welcomed him into being like one of the old timers, you know?
Yeah.
And he was the youngest NWA champion ever. And then he gets the deal in WWF, and like that kind of ends up being a bust. But then he comes into ECW and he has this big career resurgence. But then, like, ECW fucks him up because they get into it, like, with the pills and everything else like that. And I don't think we hear enough about, like a lot of times people are like, oh, LOL somas or LOL booze. And, like, a lot of people will point to, you know, Sean getting beaten up by 15 Marines, you know, and listen, I make jokes about it as well. But, like, Sean was so pilled and somaed up, they essentially beat up a guy who was sleeping, right? Mm-hmm. And just to see how much that ruined Chris's life, you know, and then seeing people like Dr. Tom Pritchard, who, you know, knew Chris, you know, from like the late 80s, early 90s in his first run in Memphis. Lance Storm, who was like his dance partner, both as a tag team partner, as an opponent for most of his ECW run. To see his brother, Johnny, who somebody else pointed out on TV that if you just showed me a picture of Johnny Candido and said, which famous wrestler's brother is this? I would say it's Dean Ambrose, John Moxley's brother.
Mm-hmm.
But just to see them when they get to that point where they're talking about Chris's last days and just to seeing them all breaking down on camera, you know, obviously I have a different affinity for Chris, but I really thought it was a powerful episode, you know, and I'm glad that it focused more on him and, you know, how painful his life was and his redemption and how it all came crashing down, and less about, like, all of the problems of Tammy, which there's a lot of.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. Like I said, I enjoyed the episode because they're all well done. And like you pointed out, the reactions from his friends all, you know, having a hard time holding it together. I mean, that's powerful television. You know, I just there wasn't anything that like I was like, oh shit, I didn't know that type of deals, you know, other than like the circumstances of exactly what led to him dying. And just to go back, you mentioned like MJF still paying tribute to Chris Candido, but not a lot of people out there talking about him prior to this episode coming out. I think that the MJF stuff comes from Myers because Brian Myers is a huge Candido fan. He did one of those extreme conversations about him with Candido's brother. So I feel like if it wasn't for obviously this Dark Side of the Ring, but before that, if it wasn't for how much Myers talks about Candido and drafts his figure in the FWF and talks about wanting Candido figures and stuff like that, I feel like he's been beating the drum for the last couple of years, but outside of that, you're right, like not a lot of people talking about him.
Right. And that's a bummer, you know? And hopefully this gets people kind of discovering more about Chris Candido. You know, I say all the time, you know, whether it be silly stuff or whatever. I think one of the biggest things that, you know, why, and obviously MJF will tell you he's the, you know, main event heel and all that other jazz. But like as big as a deal as Chris Candido was, like his stuff that he did in the ring never looked phony. You believed everything that he did. And as a heel, he always was the butt of the joke. He was always the one who was made to look foolish. Even when it was the triple threat and it was Shane, Bam Bam, and him, Chris was always the one that was like the fall guy. And he never lost any of his heat because of it, because he was so good and because he was so respected. And like MJF just isn't a character the way that he's been positioned or whatever it is that he will or does show any sort of like show his ass in any way, shape, or form, figuratively or literally, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I think I've mentioned it here on the show before, but it bears repeating. I'll probably include this in the show notes. But I mentioned before going out to those IWA Mid-South shows with the Ring of Honor kids. One of the matches on there was an 8-person match. Which was CM Punk, Ace Steel, Danny Daniels, Matt Sydal taking on Steve Stone, who was a local guy, Claudio, Nigel McGuinness, and Candido. Okay?
All right.
It's a 22-minute, 8-person comedy match.
Oh, shit. All right. Yeah, I want to see that.
And it's hilarious, right? So I'm going to make sure that we include that in the show notes. If you've never seen it before, definitely give it a watch. It's great. It's a fantastic match. Bryce is the referee. You might see me in the crowd because I think the crowd's only about 30 people.
All right, yeah, no, I'm definitely watching that. I'm watching that when we're done recording tonight.
Yeah. I'll send you the link when we're done. And then I just had to do some readjusting here because they did change it from the original episode release date to the release date. The next episode is going to be about Magnum TA.
Yeah, I saw the commercial for it. All right. Yeah, now that's going to be a guy that I know nothing about.
Okay.
Other than why he's not wrestling or why he stopped wrestling. That's all I know about Magnum.
And I'll save my comments, discussion, or otherwise for next week, right?
All right.
So there was no homework this week because there was at least 3 shows that you had a choice to watch from, right?
Yeah.
And there is nothing this week. So this week we're finally getting the opportunity to watch Adam's homework.
That's right. We're going to finally get the closure that we've all wanted, and that is by watching the Marine 6 Close Quarters.
And then I have the assignment of I have to do my elevator pitch for the Marine 7, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So I am also going to have one. I know Mass Library is going to have his as well. I believe he said he's going to call in with it. I'm not sure how he's going to get that to us, but he said he has one as well. But yeah, so we're going to present what the next installment of the series would be, as well as which current day WWE superstars would appear in that movie and how.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to that. So that'll be next week. We'll put up instructions on how to stream legally Marine 6 on our Patreon.
Well, didn't we weren't we informed that the Marine 6 is on like Tubi or something?
Possibly, but that was like weeks ago, and I don't remember.
And I'll tell you that those like streaming services, like what's available on them, changes almost monthly.
Yeah. Let's see, Marine 6.
I'm looking right now. It's thinking.
Close
quarters. It says that it's on Fubo and it's on Crackle.
I've never heard of either of those, but we'll make it work.
Yes. If you don't have Fubo or Crackle, you would watch them both with ads. I think Fubo, you have to pay for the subscription. Crackle is a free, like I said, with ads. If you're a Patreon, you'll find it in the Patreon, right?
Oh, wow. Sean looks great in that picture.
Oh, boy. Spoilers, everyone.
Also, Joe, on our Patreon, for everybody, even non-Patreons, I uploaded the newest episode of Vintage at Odds, which is us discussing our ECW origins, how we learned about the company, and our first time going to ECW shows. I put that, it was like a supersized episode, a little bit longer than the normal Vintage at Odds, and I made that public. So even if you're not a Patreon or a patron, that is available if you go to go to atoddswrestling.com/Patreon, and it'll be there. You don't have to subscribe, but maybe you'll love it and you will. But for right now, go listen to that free of charge, free 99.
So hey, let's get in some voicemails, huh?
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey there, Joe and Adam. It's the other JB here. Thank you for your recommendations on Bull Nakano, and thanks to the folks at We Need Wrestling. Those matches, those were great. Fucking kicked ass already. So after those, I just started hopping around, watching a couple of odd and end matches in Noah, All Japan, New Japan, and I came across the one iconic Lamp Great Muda entrance in Hustle, I think it was. That was pretty cool, especially, and I think what also added to it was Tajiri's face, which got me thinking that I don't know as much about him. I know that he's been around a few places, So I'm wondering if y'all have any match recommendations on Tajiri.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I think it's easy to say any of the matches at Super Crazy in ECW.
Mm-hmm.
I know there is. I wish I could pinpoint, but I think if you just look ECW to Jerry Super Crazy, you're not going to find a bad match. And then they start doing like three-way dances, throwing Guido in there, and those are all really good. You've probably seen, if you remember when when Tajiri debuted on WWF TV, and he was just like Regal's like assistant.
Mm.
And then for like weeks, he was just Regal's assistant, and then he asked Regal for a match, and Regal finally gives him a match. I think it was against Crash Holly on an episode of SmackDown, right? And the match is good. You know, it's right around what a normal Tajiri match would be. But it's more so for Regal selling Tajiri's offense at ringside is what really makes that match.
Okay. I remember him being the assistant, but I don't remember that.
Oh, my goodness. Let me see. Is that another one? I'm going to do my best to put, like, clips and links and stuff in the show notes when we talk about shit like this, you know?
Yeah, it might be tough with WWE, you know, cracking stuff down.
They do a pretty good job at putting some of the bigger stuff out there, you know?
Mm.
I'm almost certain I'm not going to play the audio here, but let me just look. Is this the one? Yeah, this is the one. Okay. So it's Tajiri vs. Crash Holly from the June 14th, 2001 episode of SmackDown. The match is less than 5 minutes, but I'm going to put that in the show notes here as well.
Okay. I can commit to 5 minutes.
Yeah. Definitely worth it. But again, like I said, if you just go to ECW, Tajiri, Super Crazy, I'm sure he's had. Oh, you know what's a good one? Not one of his best matches, but definitely a spectacle of a match where it's Tajiri versus Taz from one of the ECW pay-per-views.
Okay.
And it's what leads to, it's the beginning of Tajiri's face turn in ECW.
All right. No, I remember that as well. Yeah, I'm trying, my memory of Tajiri is very fuzzy, but...
Now, sadly, any of his Japanese stuff, you'd probably have to go ask DJ and Brett for that. They listen. I'm sure they will reach out to you, JB, and give you some of the stuff that Adam and I are ignorant of.
Hey, speak for yourself.
There you go. Adam just likes to keep his Japanese knowledge to himself.
I know. And I was also, like, this had to be a couple months ago, but I was flipping through the channels, and I had to come across an episode of MLW, like a recent episode, and, like, Tajiri was wrestling on it, and I was very surprised by that.
Probably not a good match.
No. It was like a 6-man match, and they presented him like a killer, but he didn't have it.
Gotcha.
All right, next call.
Next call.
Hey, Adam and Joe, what's happening? This is your buddy Kenny. First time, long time. Oh boy, buckle up. Here we go. Last week I went to the Jersey City, right, yeah, South Jersey Boardwalk, walking around a couple different places, looking at some things. I was wearing my Sweet and Sour Larry Sweeney Repro from the good folks at the LVAC. Get those tickets now if you can't. Anyway, guy spotted me, and he's like, is that a Sweet and Sour Larry Sweeney shirt? It's like, sure is, man. And I ended up talking to this dude for another, 20 minutes, half hour or so, just about all kinds of nonsense with wrestling. And it was a good conversation until he started capping for people like Duckface and Dick Move Guy and the Villain and all these other people that belong nowhere near pro wrestling anymore. So I was like, yeah, man, meeting up with a friend for lunch, gotta go. So that was just weird. But anyway, this day in wrestling history, 10 years to the day that you're hearing the sound of my voice right now, that one of if not the most iconic photo in all of history, was taken with the biggest, baddest, roughest, toughest, meanest looking member of Condor security ever behind a piece of shattered glass. And in that reflection was me in an El Generico shirt and a Disco Biscuits in an El Generico mask and a Disco Biscuits t-shirt. Fucking A. I wonder if I bump into that big rough and tough Condor security member at the LVAC in a couple weeks. We might be able to recreate that photo. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Get wrecked, Pops.
I did not know that the reflection of Kenny is in that classic photo that we were talking about earlier. I'm going to have to scroll and see if I can find this picture.
Well, again, obviously, as someone who does and has regularly worn wrestling masks to professional wrestling shows, there'd be no way that it'd be like, oh, yeah, that guy in the El Generico mask, that's definitely Kenny, right? But yeah, the show actually took place on June 2nd. 10 years will be, as many people are listening to this, but of course we recorded the first. But I mentioned at the top of the show, we get a lot into that on Between the Sheets this week. And that very famous picture is one of the show images that'll be accompanying that when it goes out on Monday.
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture right now. The red T-shirt, it complements the Generico mask. That's a good mix. And I tell you what, cargo shorts, I don't care if they're not in style now. I love them. Pockets for days. Can't go wrong. Good luck, Kenny.
Yes, thank you for the call, Kenny. Thank you for the reminder. And that's the thing. When you roll the dice when you wear a wrestling shirt, or you see somebody wearing a wrestling shirt in public, and you go over and you attempt to share your fandom with that person, I say 9 out of 10 times everything works out okay. And it's sad that Kenny got the 1 out of 10 time, where it's someone who's still holding a candle for like every canceled wrestler ever.
Yeah, it's an odd crossover there, like to be a fan of like a really good one and some really bad ones. That's why I'm only a fan of like really good wrestlers like Bohr and OC and Broski and Josh Bishop, all the good ones.
All right. 3 out of 4, I guess.
All right, next call.
Hello, gentlemen. Kevin here. Joe, I apologize. Apologizing ahead of time for this. Questions for Adam. It's been a tough week. I hope you're doing all right.
Thank you.
2 thoughts, Adam. Comment. However your uncancelable self feels is appropriate. 1. Alexa Bliss and Tay Mello's announcements this week. I don't know if you've noticed, Adam. I don't know your dating history. But mom bod's a thing. Your post-pregnancy mom bod and certain curves and everything that have appeared, and it's beautiful. Are you willing to go without Alexa Bliss and Tay Mello for at least a year, knowing that when they come back, they might look even better? Follow-up question. Adam, you remove people from your top 10 list that are no longer wrestling. And technically, these 2 are no longer wrestling. Thus, does that mean it's time to do an all-new top 10 list soon? Looking forward to hearing the answers. Looking forward to hearing if I'm in trouble for asking them. Talk to you later, guys. Thanks.
All right, I'm going to answer those in reverse. I already addressed the Adam Van Special Top 10, and I think that there needs to be a constitutional amendment to it where we not only allow both Tay and Alexa to stay in there, but also bring back Billie Kay, and I think that wins for everybody, so we don't have to give that any further thought. And as far as your opening thing, no comment. I'll just say I'm uncancelable, allegedly uncancelable, but I'm not going to test it.
So I will say this. Nobody said this per se, but I would think that somebody was probably thinking when Sammy Guevara and Tay Mello came out of the pay-per-view. Somebody was definitely thinking that she looked a little thicker than usual and she had a plumper face than she normally did. They wouldn't say that publicly, but I definitely think people are probably thinking that.
I know that people were probably thinking like her last couple television appearances is something didn't quite look usual.
Sure.
I'm sure people were thinking that too.
Right. They wouldn't say that.
No.
They were probably thinking it.
Not into like a microphone or on Twitter.
Right. Exactly. Thank you for your call, Kevin.
Yeah. Hey, good luck with you rehabbing your image after that call.
All right. Next call.
Hi, Joe. Hi, Adam. It's Charlie Butters from IW Guide. I just wanted to inform you about this great offer that I have for each of you.
Huh.
Now you can join us on Patreon at patreon.com and get all kinds of great content, even better than what you guys have. No, I'm kidding. But we do have a Patreon now, so I just wanted to, kind of throw it out there since you guys get free advertising on our time. Maybe we'll get some free advertising on your time. Have a good one. Later.
Now, Joe, I mean, to be fair, I do call in to their voicemail and maybe once in a while subtly, like very subtly work in plugs to our Patreon. So I think it's only fair that we let people know, well, like what their Patreon is. I don't understand why you beeped it.
I don't know. Listen, that's how the call came in. I don't preview the calls beforehand, and obviously I would have not played Kevin's call, but again, it's too late now. But however the calls come in is however I play them.
Oh, well, I mean, you know what? To be fair, again, let me give them a full plug. Patreon.com/ So now I said it. It's on the air. And again, fair is fair, but thanks for the call, Butters.
Listen, nobody puts Adam up to calling in to their show to do this, and they placate you, far be it from me to, do anything like that,
Yeah, fair is fair,
Fair,
the supporters of the show,
Right.
So, got to plug them.
Next call.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Adam. It's Jayhawk. It is a hot but clear blue sky Thursday. I check and see how you guys are doing. I just finished my son's baseball game. He went 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts, but he did get a base-loaded walk for an RBI.
Oh, nice.
No batting average this year, but .411 on base percentage. I'm not going to sweat too much. Got a good eye at the plate for the most part. But because his team won, they get to go to Dairy Queen, which is good, but then I don't have to pay for it. The coach gets to pay for it. And what am I going to do with the $3 or $4 that I'm saving by not buying Dairy Queen? I'm going to subscribe to the Indie Wrestling Guide Patreon, patreon.com/ bonus episodes, private Discord, new show we're going to be debuting. I got an interview series I'm working on. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. All your listeners should sign up for that.
Huh.
And get to interact with me on a more regular basis with that private Discord. All right, that's all I got for you guys. Talk to you later.
There's got to be something wrong with like the phones or something like that. Like
I have no clue what's going on.
That's I mean, maybe it's something with like calls from Ohio, it could be, but you know what? Again, fair's fair. I do not want those guys to get gypped. Great show, great guys. Marcy's awesome. Patreon.com/ and I think again, go subscribe. And if you didn't hear me, I'll say it one more time, patreon.com/ So make sure you go and give those guys a sub.
I 100% agree with all of Adam's sentiments.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Jayhawk.
Thank you for the call. Next call, pink button time. I think he's calling from Ohio. Let's hope there's no issues with the call here. It's right. Young Ed.
Hey, Joe and Adam, it's Ed. Sorry if this call sounds bad. I don't really know how cell quality is where I am. I'm on my way to Colossal Con to do my panels tonight at 1 a.m. But I just wanted to give a suggestion to Adam. Adam, I think I found a way for you to make a lot of money.
All right.
Have you considered the idea of maybe you have a magic power where when you develop a giant crush on somebody, eventually they get pregnant. I think you could make money off of this. You could pay people that want to have children, like couples that want to have children, to develop a crush on the birth giver, and you could charge them money to have that crush, and then I guarantee they would have a child. And then this is a great money-making endeavor, and I think if you do it, you have to cut me in at least 12%.
That's fair.
Watch do Love vs. Stone Cold over the ads. That match fucking rules. I love it. That match is fucking fantastic.
That's right.
Alright, I'm gonna head in and I'm gonna go have drinks, and then I'm gonna talk about, Hayabusa's asshole exploding. Okay, bye.
Do you remember like that one year back in the early 2000s where Dane Cook was like the most famous person on the planet?
Sadly, yes, I do.
He had that movie Good Luck Chuck, where like anytime he would date somebody, immediately afterwards they would get engaged. So like women were just dating him because they wanted to find like the right one, because they knew as soon as they did it. That's basically what Ed is saying. I charge for a service where it's like maybe like a woman's having trouble, conceiving. They just pay me to fall in love with them, and then they're immediately like 20% more fertile.
Oh, okay. But
and then I was going to say years later, they can chronicle my career on If You Catch My Drift.
I was going to say, I know you're going to be surprised by this, Adam, but the film Good Luck Chuck does not hold up.
I'm not surprised by that, but I saw it when it first came out, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. And I would never say that you're the Dane Cook of this show. That would maybe be a cancelable offense on my part.
Yeah, possibly.
But the problem is where it comes in as this person that Adam develops the crush on, obviously has to have the want or the need or the desire to get pregnant, but they also have to have a line of merchandise and possibly an OnlyFans or a thereabouts of an OnlyFans for Adam to spend some of that money. So it's like, okay, well, I have dolls and I have shirts and I have one-of-one signed trading cards, and I have cardboard standees. You need to work that into the fee that they're paying you for your expenses. But obviously, if they don't have those items for you to spend money on, then they have to have those items commissioned, which is another expense. But if you want to have a kid that bad, I guess this is what you got to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated, like, self-contained ecosystem. It's like Dave and Buster's bucks, but we'll figure it out.
Exactly.
But hopefully Ed has a good time and stays out of trouble at Colossal Con.
Yeah, and hey, the newest episode of Hiya Bussy came out this past weekend. My wife, in the year of 2023, just discovered podcasts.
Okay.
And I'm doing everything in my power to get her to listen to Hiya Bussy to see how long it takes her to turn it off.
And other people who have just started listening to podcasts, I tried to convince Todd on the most recent episode of Porch Talk to listen to Hayabusa. I was trying to explain to him that it is not a wrestling podcast.
Right.
I think I was trying to tell him that it was like the Muppet Show on meth.
Or nose beers, but sure.
Yeah, nose beers. That's probably what I meant. But like it has the frantic energy of backstage at the Muppet Show, and I tried, but he's just dug in too deep on not wanting to listen to non-Salty Keith podcasts.
Right. Too bad there isn't any more Salty Keith podcasts.
That's a shame.
He's moving from Virginia to Florida, so it's going to be a while. But I was explaining the premise of episode 2 of Hiya Bussy to my wife in front of my son, and my son, who's 11, seemed very intrigued by it, but he's not allowed to listen.
Oh God!
And I did tell this to Ed, and Ed said, "Oh, she'll loathe it." So he knows his audience,
Yeah, it's smart. It's smart.
So thanks everyone for calling. Obviously we mentioned earlier with the homework coming up, our Patreon, patreon.com/@oddswrestling. You could support us there. You can make purchases through our eBay affiliate link. And let me read that very clear verbiage here. When you click on links to various merchants on this site and make a purchase, this can result in the site earning a commission. Affiliate programs and affiliations include, but are not limited to, the eBay Partner Network.
Yeah.
You can also make purchases through our TeePublic store. The next set of sales does not kick off until next week. So hold off until next week. 35% off. Get a bunch of At Odds inspired stuff on everything from shirts to cell phone covers to notebooks and all sorts of things in between.
Sounds good. But you know what also sounds good, Joe? These podcasts. And we already mentioned Hayabusa, so that doesn't get a plug, at least another one. But the other podcasts you should listen to are Longbox Heroes After Dark, Final Wrestling Place, We Need Wrestling, Porch Talk, Viewer's Choice, Wrestling Cheers, Wings on Wings, and because there was the issue with the phone line before, Joe, Indie Wrestling Guide. Go check out their Patreon at patreon.com/ definitely worth a sub.
Now it's time for Adam's favorite part of the show.
Yeah, let's do it.
Some might cost a little. Some might cost a lot. But I'm the $100 Vansky. And your figures will be bought.
All right, Joe. I have a very, very large week, but before I get into that, I just want to do like a toy adjacent thing that I just want to talk about. I went this past weekend. I had the displeasure of not only having to leave the beautiful state of Pennsylvania, but I entered New Jersey. It makes me sick just saying the words, but my mom wanted to go to the American Dream Mall, a mall so nice and named after Dusty Rhodes. Shout out Brett or DJ. One of those guys had that joke. But I don't know. Are you familiar with the American Dream Mall?
Isn't it the one that has like the big giant amusement park inside of it?
Yeah, so it's basically like the Mall of America, because it's the same like size and the same gimmick, and it's run by the same people, but it's next to where the Giants and the Jets play, like in East Rutherford, New Jersey. But my mom wanted to go there, and I was like, oh, all right, I'll drive you. And went there because I knew that that was one of, if not the last United States Toys R Us. And so I and take a look at what they had, and I tweeted out the pictures the other day, but that place, it is the most organized and well stocked toy store I've ever been into, but like the shelves and the pegs were filled to the brim, but complete garbage as far as what they had wrestling figure wise. If you saw the picture I tweeted out, it was literally like 40 pegs filled to the brim with Shayna Baszler basics, a couple Ember Moons mixed in, but like it was literally like 100 Shayna basics, and that was it. Like no elites, no ultimates, no AEW figures. I don't understand how they pay the rent in a mall that big, or in any mall in general, because it didn't look like anybody was buying anything, and everything was like well overpriced. Like I think the basics were $20. And I get that it's, New York, New Jersey, but like, come on, it's a basic, and it's not even one that somebody wants. But it was cool going to the last Toys R Us, at least, like I said, in the United States. And like you said, yeah, they have an amusement park there. It's too rich for my blood. I just wanted to ride one specific roller coaster, but they make you buy an unlimited pass for the park. And it was like $90. And there's maybe 5 rides in there, and like 2 of them are for adults, so to ride the one roller coaster, that was a pass. But they also have a ski slope in there. They have a water park. It's a cool overall mall, and I like malls, but
how was the food selection? What was the food selection like? Was there an Arthur Treacher's?
Ooh, I should have paid attention to that. It was a very, very large food court, and I don't believe there were any vacancies. It's not like when you go to the Wyoming Valley Mall or the Viewmont Mall and it's just boarded up and like, here's an Annie Ann's. There was like, here's a pizza place, here's a hot dog place, here's a Chinese food place. Like it was filled. So surprisingly, a lot of people at the mall. So maybe that one will survive. Not that I'm in the pocket of big commerce, but it was again. My mom wanted to go, and like it was just cool going to Toys R Us.
Yeah, that'd be interesting just to like kind of relive that, since they all closed down around here like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah,
and the fact that there's one in like driving distance, 2.5 hours, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's just nostalgic purposes, and it's crazy to think that, like, say 4 or 5 years ago is now nostalgic purposes, but here we are,
Yeah, no, definitely. And I was going to say, I also just before I left the New Jersey area, I did a quick Google to see if there were any toy stores in the nearby area. I did stop at Zonk's Pop Culture World, which is like a toy store that I've seen advertised in the Major Pod group. I think like the owner is a member of the group. So I was like, okay, I'll swing by there. Not bad store. Very, very, very small. Like one of those things where like I had a hard time. Like if something was on the bottom shelf, you're like, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to see that because if I back up, I'm gonna walk into a shelf and knock it over. But lots of like Jakks era wrestling figures and like signed AEW figures, but mostly just like vintage video games. So if you're into that, not a sponsor, but I figured I went there, I'd shout them out.
Yeah, sure.
But weekly purchases, Joe, do you have any?
I do.
All right, let me do one or two of mine, and I'll throw it over to you just so I'm not taking up the last hour. But I will be quick. I pre-ordered earlier today. I really wish I had set rules on which Cobra bats I would buy. Like, I should have just went with the classic design, but I allowed myself to go down the road of buying all the variants, and here we are. So I pre-ordered the Classified Series Arctic Cobra bat, which is just a Cobra bat in, like, white and blue. So I got that coming to me. And I also pre-ordered the McFarlane DC Multiverse Nightfall Batman figure. It is not Azrael under there, so it loses some points. It is Bruce, but I figure I need it.
I'm glad it wasn't Azrael, because that's just
well, it won't sell as well, but it's good that there's some Batman figures on the shelves for Christmas season,
Right, of course. What every child wants.
Exactly. What about you, Joe? What'd you buy?
Well, again, my birthday has passed since we last recorded. Thank you. And my wife did get me the new monitor that I wanted for my computer. The monitor that I had previously was from 2005. So it was time to get a new monitor. Again, it was like, I think it's like $80 or whatever it is. Again, whatever the brand name of it's like Scepter, who cares, right? It's like 22 inches. It has speakers built into it, which was like a sticking point for me that I wanted. And it was one of those things like, okay, once my birthday's over, whatever I don't get, I'm just going to buy for myself because I'm an adult. So I ended up purchasing my Blu-ray player.
Oh, nice. Busting out that, what was it? The Muscle?
Yes, the Ultimate Muscle DVD. So I purchased that for myself, and this is like the splurging that I did for myself. So this past Christmas, my kid got a TV for his room. So the Switch moved into his room. So it's kind of like cramped quarters in his room. Like, he had 2 friends over this past weekend, and it's like, hey, we're all going to go and play a multiplayer game. So now there's like 4, 5, 6 people try to cram in this little room. I bought a separate third-party docking station for the Switch for the living room, just so that when he has like tons of kids over, they're not all crammed into his room. They could play the game in the living room. My Katamari Damacy re-release that I pre-ordered back in February is shipping this week. So when that comes in, I could play it out in the living room. I don't have to go in his room to do it. If myself or my wife want to do the Ring Fit gimmick, we don't have to like squeeze into his room to try to do it.
Okay.
But again, it's something that we wanted to get for a while, and I researched to see like what the best third-party one is, because like you can buy a Nintendo docking station, and it's like half the price of a normal Switch, so it's like $100 for a Nintendo branded docking system. But you can get like a third-party one that works perfect, has great reviews, no issues, for like $23.
Yeah, no, fuck that. I'm a first-party controller guy, but when it comes to other accessories, yeah, give me Brand X from Amazon. That's fine.
Yeah, yep.
Back to toys. I don't know if you know this, Joe. There was a lot of new announcements and pre-orders that went up over the last couple days. It's funny how like an AEW pay-per-view comes along with those type of things.
Yes.
But I did make I added a lot of stuff to my list. Like I keep a list of what I need to order and what's been announced versus what's been put up for pre-order. It's like you with comics, but I do with toys. So I added a lot of stuff to my list, but a couple of them I just basically said, well, I'll get that when I get it. I'm not paying the suckers premium. I'm not paying, $5, $10 extra. I'll just wait until it releases and get it for price. But what I did pre-order, and I'll go over them very quickly, I ordered the Target exclusive Adam Cole figure.
Baby.
I ordered the Target exclusive Ultimate Rock, which is him in the tracksuit, like the Adidas tracksuit. I pre-ordered the Amazon exclusive Hook and Danhausen 2-pack, as well as the Amazon exclusive Mox and Bryan Danielson 2-pack.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing that I not really a pre-order, but it's supposedly in stock, but the way Pro Wrestling Tees operates, it might as well be a pre-order because I'll get it in like 2 months. I bought the 1 of 3,000 Shop AEW Hot Goldberg figure, aka Jade Cargill, just because I am 100% on those Shop AEW figures,
Yeah, like I said, I didn't really need these per se,
Sure.
Look, there was a lot of cool announcements. The Hook Danhausen 2-pack looks really cool. Obviously the Eddie we mentioned earlier is a Walmart exclusive, and I'll need that.
Yeah.
And we got renders for stuff and announcements for stuff, but no dates on anything that I need. Like when we get a date and a pre-order on the Ethan Page figure, I'll do that.
Sure.
It looks like the next Orange Cassidy is at least coming with the All Atlantic / international title and possibly a backpack, since the Hook comes with a backpack. So that's different enough for me to buy.
Yeah, we still have those indie IWTV belts too.
Yeah.
I remember when we got those, I was looking for a Barbie backpack to try to have a Lucy for it. But speaking of pre-orders that I didn't get, there's the ringside Hook that comes with the bag of chips and the backpack and all that stuff. There's the Blood and Guts Wheeler Yuta. There's a ringside Danhausen that looks cool. But they also announced Blade Runner Sting, which looks off. I mean, it's just a picture of Sting.
Just the idea of it is off.
Exactly. Yeah. And there is a Tay Mello where she's wearing she has the Brazilian flag and the face paint. That was a great look that they're finally doing a figure of. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff upcoming, but I feel like I kept it within restraint by only ordering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 figures, and staying away from the ringside pre-orders, But do you have anything else purchase-wise?
No, like I said, I ordered those 2 things together, so, let's say that was my one purchase this week.
Gotcha. All right, so I did, in the wild today, I tweeted this out as well, I found the Walmart exclusive Supreme Kenny Omega.
I saw the picture of that. You'd sent that out, yes.
Yep. So I was actually, I went to the Honesdale Walmart for those not in the area. It's probably maybe a half hour from here, 40 minutes from here. I was just hey, I had some podcasts to listen to, so I listened to that, and I got there, and it was the only one sitting on the shelf, and it was this minty mint. So I was I let out a little nerdy gasp. I was oh, it's here. So I was happy to check that off my list. But that's my last wrestling figure. I do have one other purchase, and I don't know how much you've heard about this endeavor, this very ambitious endeavor. Maybe somebody else stooged off on it, but I bought a gaming headset for my PlayStation 5, and Joe, I have never ever played an online game before, for any of the systems. I've had every PlayStation, a bunch of Xboxes and stuff like that. I've never played online. People have always been trying to get me to play online, but I was talking to Todd, and we both decided, I don't know if you've heard of this brand new game that just came out called Grand Theft Auto 5. And by brand new, I mean it came out in 2013, I think. But we both basically decided that we want to play the online version on the PS5. We want to play GTA Online because of the fact we were just doing we were all nostalgic of oh man, Grand Theft Auto 6 is still a year away. And I brought it up to him that hey, there is way more content online than there was on actually the physical disc. as far as missions and stuff to do. I was like, why don't we just play online? We'll get together, find some like-minded individuals. And Todd shares the sentiment that I did, that I'm old and I'm scared of technology when it comes to that.
Sure.
But we both agreed, a gentleman's agreement, that we would do it, like basically commit to 1 month of PlayStation Plus, buy a cheap headset. So I think I paid like $25 for a headset. And I dove in and I bought the membership, I bought the headset, and I signed up, and Todd is dragging his feet like, maybe if I see you playing it. Like, I'm like, come on, dude. I was like, this is bullshit. So I'm playing it like the last couple days, and, for the most part, people are cool, but like every once in a while you drop into a server and just people are just it's like landing on the beaches of Normandy when you go into these servers. Like, you're just getting mowed down by level 1000s and you're just like a level 2. But long story short, Todd abandoned me. I bought a headset. If there's anybody out there that has GTA 5 and a PlayStation 5 and they want to join my gang, let me know. But that's my last purchase. I've been playing Grand Theft Auto late nights recently.
I'll give Todd a hard time when we record Longbox next week. But, are you going to have a Twitch channel now?
Somebody suggested that to me a long time ago, to do that. I actually, because I mentioned it to Todd, I was like, I should film it, because whenever you search for GTA, like streamers on YouTube, it's always these people that are really, really, really good at the game. And I feel like my niche would be that, like, I know nothing and I haven't touched Grand Theft Auto since 2013 or 2014. And I've never played online, certainly not GTA Online, but just online in general. And just having the Babe Out of the Woods experience, like, I would be like that divine lady in trying to walk in the ECW ring. Like, I would just be falling over. So that could have been the corner that I would have marketed, but nah, I'm just going to embarrass myself in private,
All right. I'm just saying, you can probably make a couple bucks with some Twitch subscriptions, get some people, sign you up. I don't know. I'm just looking at ways to make money. Put it on the Patreon. True. Put the videos on the Patreon of you playing the game.
See, I would have to get, like, that's some startup money, so as I don't know how to stream any of that. And can you hook a PlayStation 5 up? Usually they do that with like a computer, don't they?
There's ways that you can do. There's ways that you can do it.
These are all questions that somebody else can solve for me, and I'll give them the Ed's 12% of the Patreon money.
Exactly.
But that's all I have, Joe.
All right. Well, listen, it's a very productive week for you, traveling, buying tons of shit that you don't need. It's exactly what I like to hear from Adam, Yeah,
it's been a rough week, but I feel like I rebounded. Okay.
That's right. You drown yourself in toys, as we all do,
Exactly.
But yeah, so listen, hey, everyone, thank you very much for listening. And I didn't plug, we mentioned it a little bit in passing, but I did not plug the upcoming LVAC show, which is in 2 weeks, because it's sold out. They announced 2 matches and a couple talent. 3 matches. My apologies. They announced 3 matches, a couple of the talent, 5 matches. I never know who the bands are. I don't go for the bands. Maybe you go for the bands. That's not my bag, baby. But yeah, maybe you got a ticket and maybe I'll see you there. If not, I think. Oh, you know what? I got to put this in the show notes here as well. The DVD just came out through Smart Mark Video. The DVD and MP4 of the last show just came out from our good friends at Smart Mark Video on what would have been Monday. So I'll include all that in the show notes here as well.
Yeah, and LVAC said that they may have 20 tickets available for walk-ups, so get there early if you did not pre-order a ticket.
Yeah, I wouldn't take my chances.
Yeah. But, all right, good show.
Yep, so this was episode 244 of At Odds with Wrestling. For Adam, this is Joe saying thanks for listening, be safe out there, and enjoy some wrestling.
You're listening to the soon-to-be named network, the Lamborghini of podcast networks.